About 100 years ago, there were Sayadaws in Burma who tried to revive the practice of Vipassana meditation. The systematic practice of Vipassana, as we do now here, I think, began with a Sayadaw who was known as Mingun Jetavan Sayadaw. From his biography, we learn that Sayadaw wanted to practice Vipassana meditation, but he did not know how to. So he was searching for a teacher who could teach him Vipassana meditation. Fortunately, he met one Manjusa Sayadaw in the place called Mingun. It is across the river from Mandalay. That Manjusa Sayadaw who lived in Mingun was a student of Thilon Sayadaw, who was reputed or who was renowned as an arahant. According to the verbal records, that first Sayadaw could be a non-returner because it is said there was a meeting of many Sayadaws at one time. The other Sayadaws asked Thilon Sayadaw to give a Dhamma talk to them about the practice. And so he said, "I will give you a Dhamma talk as far as my practice goes," or something like this. Then he talked about the practice of meditation up until the third stage of enlightenment. If that record is to be relied upon, then Thilon Sayadaw was an anagami, a non-returner. That Sayadaw did not have many pupils because he lived in the forest and not many monks could live there. That Manjusa Sayadaw who lived in Mingun was a student of Thilon Sayadaw, so he knew how to practice, and he practiced, and maybe he was also an enlightened person. So Mingun Jetavan Sayadaw met Manjusa Sayadaw and requested that Sayadaw teach him or explain to him the practice of meditation. But Manjusa Sayadaw did not teach him in detail. He just said, "There is a discourse, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and there are commentaries and sub-commentaries. You just go and study this discourse and the commentaries." So Mingun Jetavan Sayadaw studied the discourse along with the commentaries and sub-commentaries. It is said that he came to know how to practice, so he practiced. Maybe he got some instruction from that Sayadaw. We don't know. So he practiced, and it is said that he was able to reach some kind of stage and that he was satisfied with his practice. That happened about 1908. So it was just at the turn of the 20th century. After he got satisfaction in his practice, he wanted to teach other people how to practice meditation. So he began giving Dhamma talks at Mingun, but nobody wanted to listen to him. His talks were so strange in those days that people just criticized him and made fun of him. For example, he talked of knowing, "When I am going, I know I am going," or "When I am sitting, I know I am sitting." They made fun of him, saying, "We also know we are going when we are going. We also know when I am killing fish, I am killing fish," and so on. So nobody wanted to hear him. He went back to his native village because he thought that people in his native village, his relatives and others, would want to listen to him. So he went back to his native village and again gave Dhamma talks, but nobody wanted to listen to him. He received the same ridicule. After about 2 years, he went back to Mingun, and again he persevered. He again gave talks. At that time, a couple from Mandalay listened to him. They were interested and they wanted to practice meditation under his guidance. So they practiced following his instructions, and they also got satisfaction with their practice. So little by little, the number of meditators increased. Later, he was able to establish a meditation center in one town. That was in 1911. From that time on, in many towns, meditation centers were established. Ultimately, in 1914, he went to Lower Burma to the city of Thaton and established a monastery, giving it the same name, Mingun Jetavan Monastery there. That is why he was known as Mingun Jetavan Sayadaw. Many people came to him to practice meditation, so his fame spread far and wide. He had students or pupils who practiced with him, and then who later on carried on his practice of Vipassana meditation. Many people, both monks and laymen, went to him to practice meditation. Many of his students became meditation teachers in his tradition. One of his pupils, Sayadaw U Visuddha by name, established a center in Rangoon and began teaching Vipassana in Mingun tradition. That center is still in existence in Rangoon, not far from Shrey Dagon Pagoda. In 1932, another student monk went to Mingun Jetavan Sayadaw and practiced meditation under his guidance. That student monk practiced for about 4 months with him, and then he had to go back to his monastery. That student was the Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw. So Mahasi Sayadaw, after practicing Vipassana under the guidance of Jetavan Sayadaw, began to teach Vipassana in 1938. He went back to his native village and gave Dhamma talks. There were people who wanted to practice meditation, including his cousins. So he first taught Vipassana in 1938. Then he went back and forth between the city of Thaton and his native place, which is in Upper Burma. In 1949, he was invited to Rangoon by Mahasi Yekta Rangoon Meditation Center. Ever since that time, Mahasi Sayadaw lived in this meditation center in Rangoon until his death in 1982. Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw was very successful in spreading Vipassana meditation. One reason why he was so successful was that he was supported by the then Prime Minister of Burma, U Nu. When the Prime Minister went to the center to practice meditation, many people went along with him. So he was very successful in spreading Vipassana meditation, not only in Burma, but also abroad. Mahasi Sayadaw had among his students those that were conversant in the English language. His talks and some of his books were translated into English and distributed abroad. People in other countries also go to know about Mahasi Sayadaw's teaching and his method of Vipassana meditation. In Burma, many meditation centers were also put up, and thousands of people have practiced Vipassana meditation in those centers. Centers were also established in Thailand and Sri Lanka, and many people practiced meditation there too. Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw was not the only meditation teacher in Burma. There were many other Sayadaws who taught Vipassana meditation. Although all these Sayadaws taught Vipassana meditation, their techniques differ from one another in some respects. Generally, every Sayadaw who taught Vipassana meditation based their practice on the teachings contained in the Discourse on the Four Foundations of Mindfulness. Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw was invited to the United States to lead retreats, teach, and give talks on Vipassana meditation by Insight Meditation Society in 1979. So Sayadaw visited this country and led retreats in different places. When he left me behind to carry on his Vipassana propagation work. Later, now, you have other Sayadaws teaching Vipassana meditation in the tradition of Mahasi Sayadaw, such as Sayadaw U Pandita, Sayadaw U Kundala, and also Sayadaw U Dhammapiya here. Also in New York, there is Sayadaw U Indaka. So these students of Mahasi Sayadaw are now spreading the practice of Vipassana in this country.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very good, Serena. So in the teaching of the Buddha, there are two duties for his disciple. The first one is pariyatti, teaching, and the second one is patipatti. Patipatti is practice. So teaching and practice, that is pariyatti and patipatti. So Sangha, the Buddha disciple, and also the disciple of the Buddha, lay disciple, have two duties. But lay disciple have not too much time to study. Only just the monks emphasize on teaching and learning, and also monks have more time to practice. So Sarina, there are two kinds of duties for the disciple of the Buddha: pariyatti and patipatti, teaching and practice. So how many duties do the disciple of the Buddha have?
Yes, Sayadaw, the disciples of the Buddha have two duties, pariyatti and patipatti, teaching and practice.
Yes. So lay disciples have not too much time because they have to do for their living, but the monks have nothing to do. Only just we can get the food from the devotees, and also devotees offer everything for the monks to practice and do. So the monks have too much time to study and also practice. Very good opportunity for the monks. And now the sasana, the teaching of the Buddha, after the Buddha passed away, nearly 2000 is 500. And the teaching of the Buddha was handed down from generation to generation. And for the Patipatti teaching, there are 6 councils. The six councils were held for to hand down the teaching of the Buddha. So the six council, the first council, second council, and third council were held in India. The fourth council was held in Sri Lanka, and the fifth and sixth council were held in Burma. So now the teaching of the Buddha have come down to us, the present generation. So for the Priyati, the teaching of the Buddha, the Buddha was handed down from generation to generation by celebrating, by performing the councils. So how many councils were held to hand down the teaching of the Buddha from generation to generation, Sarina?
Yes, Sayadaw, there have been 6 councils to hand down the teachings of the Buddha from generation to generation.
Yes, 6 councils. And then for the patipatti, the practice is until 20th century. Sometimes the practice is increased. Sometimes the practice is decreased, ups and down. About the 1,000 years after the death of the Buddha, the practice seemed to be the Vipassana training seemed to be practiced by many people. But after about 1,000 years, after the death of the Buddha until recently, and that means until the 20th century, Vipassana seemed to have fallen into disuse. So it's ups and down, the practice. due to the depending on the disciple. Sometimes disciple practice and sasana is up. Sometimes the disciple do not practice too much, so the sasana decline. So let us go to the 100 years ago in Burma, the practice. Because Priyati Sasana, Priyati and Priyati, Pripati, these two talks were more emphasized in Burma because in Theravada countries, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Burma, Cambodia, etc., Burma is very famous for his learning, teaching, and practice. So let us go to the 100 years ago in Burma practice. So about 100 years ago, there was Sayadaw, the monks from Burma. They tried to revive the practice of Vipassana meditation. And we have to mention that we are very connected we are disciple of the Mahasi Sayadaw, because Mahasi Sayadaw is very reliable teacher. The last council, sixth council, he acted like a president or the head of the sixth council, because at the sixth council, Mahasi Sayadaw asked the question regarding the three teaching to Mingun Sayadaw and Mingun Sayadaw. The Tipitaka Sayadaw have to answer all the teaching of the Buddha. And all the monks from the whole world, they accepted the teaching recorded. So Mingun Sayadaw teacher and grand teacher and grand teachers are very famous. They are famous Sayadaw of Tilong Sayadaw and another Sayadaw. So one Sayadaw, the one Sayadaw was tested by the other teacher, and the other teacher asked that Sayadaw to give a Dhamma talk to them about the practice. And that Sayadaw said, I will give you a Dhamma talk as far as my practice goes. That means whatever he give talk, his talk is very very experienced by himself, and not from theory. It is the experience he encountered during his practice. So when he talk about the practice, his experience of meditation up to the third stage of enlightenment. So if that record is to be relied upon, then that Sayadaw was an anagami. So Mahasi Sayadaw, teacher, grand teachers are very famous in the practice, very reliable teacher, very dependable teacher. Tilong Sayadaw, etc. are arahants and nagami, and they practice in the forest. So this is the wish of the Buddha, to be liberated of his all disciple, and that the Mahasi Sayadaw teacher Mingo Seattle, etc. They rely on the true teaching, the Mahatipatthana Sutta, the discourse, the four foundations of mindfulness, and they were well versed, and they refer to commentaries, sub-commentaries, and very learned teachers, or teachers are reliable. So Mingon Jetu and Searos study the discourse along with the commentaries and sub-commentaries. But when Mingon Searos started to teach his Mahatipatthana Sutta, when Kichandawa Kichamiti Pajanadi, when I'm going, I know I'm going. When I'm sitting, I know I'm sitting. So it is the true teaching of the Buddha. Buddha simply mentioned that when you go, you need to know the going. When you sit, you have to know sitting. When you stand, you have to know standing, etc. So the method is you have to really know the nature of phenomena as they really are. So this is the teaching, true teaching. You have to really know the nature of phenomena as they really are. And if you know the nature of phenomena as they really are, you will be escaped from suffering. So this is the point of the teaching. So the essence of teaching is, Serena, you remember?
Yes, Sayadaw, the essence of the teaching is to know the nature of all phenomena in order to escape suffering.
Yes. You need to know the nature of phenomena as they really are. The reality of the phenomena are anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanent, suffering, and non-self. So to understand the true nature, to understand the nature of phenomena as they really are, when you sit, you have to know sitting. When you stand, you have to know standing. When you walk, you have to know walking, etc. And then people make fun. People make ridicule that kinds of teaching. So what they make fun is, you are practicing, you know you are going when you are going. You know you are going when you are going. You know when you know sitting when you know sitting. You have to know when you are killing. So that make that kinds of fun they do, and the it is not only for the make fun of for the Mingun Seattle, it is the make fun for the Buddha. So what kinds of fun? What the people make fun of the true teaching of the Buddha? How they make fun? How they say they to make fun of the true teaching of the Buddha, Serena?
Yes, Sayadaw, the people made fun of the Mingun Sayadaw and the Buddha's teaching by saying, we also know when we are going. When we are going, we also know when I'm killing fish, I'm killing fish.
Yes. So you also know when you are killing a fish, you are killing the fish, and so on. So that kinds of fun is very damaging to the teaching of the Buddha. The teaching of the Buddha is you need to know the nature of phenomena as they really are, and you need to understand true nature when the nature of phenomena arises. So actually, killing have to be abstained. It is sila, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, etc. 5 precepts you need to observe. So killing killing, not allowed in the teaching. So sila first you need to practice, and then you need to practice meditation to understand the true nature of the natural phenomena. And then Mingo Siaro, who is the teacher of Mahasi Siaro, and he again trying to give talk the true teaching. And later, his teaching was very very accepted by the people, because when they practice, they gain a lot of benefits. And Mingo Siaro teaches students Uisoda and Venerable Masi Siaro. They are very famous, the students of the Mingo Siaro. And Masi Siaro practiced only 4 months, but his parami is very special. He gained the true results by practicing seriously under the guidance of Mingo Siaro. Then Masi Siaro practiced, continue, and then he established his center, and now the teaching was spread not only in Burma, but spread to other countries. So now the Vipassana propagation work. So the duty of the disciple, we need to practice this true teaching. The teaching of the Buddha was Sila Samadhi Pinya, morality, concentration, and wisdom. And Mahasatipatthana Sutta, we need to rely upon. What we are practicing is Mahasatipatthana Sutta. And to encounter the teaching of the Buddha is very fortunate. And depending on the practice of the disciple, the sasana will be increased. And this teaching is not always lasting. It is not permanent. It is not permanent. It will last only depending on the disciple. When disciple practice, the sasana grows up. When disciple do not practice the practice way, the sasana way going down. So sasana, the teaching or the vipassana practice, is very worthy, and it is very precious. It is very difficult to be seen. Only the disciple who have parami, who are very fortunate people, can discover the kinds of vipassana practice. So we need to emphasize the kinds of propagation. First, we need to establish sasana in our within us, and then we need to spread that kinds of teaching to our friends, to other people, so that they can be liberated from all suffering. So only just this is the teaching of the Buddha. Pariyati and Paripatti were handed down from generation to generation. So for this present moment, our duty to carry the sasana, the teaching of the Buddha, especially the practice. So in one sutta, Buddha mentioned that so long as the people practice Satipatthana or Eightfold Path, the sasana will be flourish. The sasana will be brightened. The sasana will be increase all the time. But when there is no practitioner, sasana will be disappear. So it is end for today. So any questions, Serena?
I will check to see if there's questions, Sayadaw.
Okay.
Anyone have questions? Sayadaw, looks like there's no questions for today.
Okay.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.